Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Jamie Pluff, Greg Dumontier, Carol Langford, Danielle Matt. Here. Bing Matt, James Steele Jr.,
Good morning.
Martin Charlo, Len Tooteeth, and Lenise Trahan. She's
Okay. James, we this morning. Cool and Zoot, and thank you for this morning. We thank you for this day. We thank you for our beautiful homeland that we are blessed with. We thank you for all of our tribal members and citizens. We ask for your guidance today to give us wisdom as we make decisions for our people this morning and this afternoon. Keep everyone safe that is working for our police forces, our fish and game officers, and those that are part of our military. Thank you for this day. Amen. Thank you, James. We have minutes from March 31st.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Martin.
I'm not sure what page it is on, but it's on the motion for the building and tribal health and my comment. Instead of putting Joe's on his way out, can I just put the tribal health is in the middle of a transition?
Thank you, Martin. Motion by Tom to approve the March 31st minutes with additions. Second by Len. All in favor? I believe we're unanimous. We have an agenda for today. We have 2 walk-ins. Any other additions? Len? There aren't any more. I'd welcome a motion.
I'll have an issue, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin.
Motion.
Motion by Tom, second by Martin to approve the agenda with additions. All in favor? We're unanimous. Yeah, we'll start with our first walk-in. Michelle and Mel. Morning. We will go out of regular into executive. You need a decision, actual push.
So with this whole discussion that we were having, I know that there have been separate discussions about the organization of social or DHRD as a whole, possibly separating out CPS, possibly, looking at that. And so that was, the other thought on this is getting someone who specializes in that type of work to come and look or be that person. Because, yeah,
We are in open.
I know, I'm speaking very, but really, I mean, that's what we need to do. And that could be out throughout the organization. And that's kind of what I thought the consulting firm that was hired by personnel.
Gordon Ridge, come on up.
And then could we go back into executive? This one, yeah.
You're looking for executive, Ridge? Okay. Out of regular into executive.
I wanted to discuss with council about a couple donation requests that I've received from tribal members, and two of the requests were from tribal member LD Irvin and James Bible. They're both coaches for basketball teams that will be participating in the Battle of the Nations basketball. I'm not sure when that is. Is that this weekend or following weekend?
Next weekend, and I just sent them the donation forms. I talked to them when I was out of the room to James Bible. So I'm working with them right now.
Okay, and also can you get one over to LD Irvin and LD and Nori Irvin?
Yeah, I'll do that right now.
Okay. And the third donation request, as you guys can remember, we talked about the most recent donation that we did was for the Easter event that was taking place at Pishi. We had one tribal member from R. Lee that will be organizing an Easter egg hunt over there too, and they were also requesting a donation
Is
to
that
help with the
Jay
event.
Is
What?
that Jay Keenan?
Yes.
We already sent them a check yesterday, and we already sent the Skaha one as well.
Oh, good deal. All right, thank you. That's all I had.
And we're letting them know that they can come and pick those eggs up that we ended up getting yesterday. So I got in contact with all of them as well.
Martin, you had an issue you wanted?
Yeah, I attended the SQCC elders meeting. Again, it's always the first Wednesday of the month in case people forget. And we would love to see you there. It's always really informative, almost sometimes more informative than the reports we get here. So really encourage you guys to attend.
Thanks, Gordon. Gordon Virgil, come on up. I got your name. Morning, everybody. Mike is going to open up with some background and history of the title of the project we're working on.
Gus Quex, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the rest of the council for making time for us this morning. So I'll give you a little background or history. Do you have the, Jen, did you get the little thing from Ian for the slides?
From this morning, it wasn't in the packet, so I'm needing to look through my emails right now to find.
Sorry about that. So how did we get to this point? So this is, what we are doing is putting an application for a grant from the EPA, wildfire smoke preparedness grant. And a couple of years ago, we hosted a Earth Day event over here at the college. And I remember driving up here that morning and I couldn't even see the mountains. And I was thinking my grandson was having football practice that morning in Mission. And I was thinking, I hope that they are not. I hope that they don't have those kids out there on the practice field. And I shared that at this event over there. And a couple weeks after that, I got a call from Dr. Lori Byron, who attended that event. And she said, "Hey, Mike, would you be interested in putting up some purple air monitors?" And I didn't really know at the time what they were or what they were about, but there was smoke. They measure PM 2.5. You guys have one located out here in the lobby. But what they are is a network of monitors that measure smoke and other particulates up down to 2.5 microns. So at the time, she sent me seven of those monitors. And along with, I don't know if Ian or Kenneth for sure, we put those monitors at all the schools. That was where we started 2 years ago. This last year, we worked with Kyle Bosinski and the Montana Climate Office under a NOAA grant, and we was able to get 50. So, well, now we have 54 of these monitors deployed all over the reservation, including here in the chamber or outside here in the lobby. Every health center, every fitness center, the schools. I want the hope is to get those into the Head Starts, the elder centers. So this grant is going to help us do that. But I'm going to let these guys talk a little bit more about what that means. But can you put that first slide on with this group? So over the past year, if you guys can see that, you'll see that there are days when the air that you're breathing in this chambers is worse inside than it is outside. And that's what we have found with a lot of the buildings that the tribe has, even the health centers, tribal health centers, buildings. There's days when the air inside that building is worse than it is outside. And we're saying, go inside, stay in your house, stay inside. So how do we get that? How do we make sure that those places are safe and clean? They have clean air to breathe. So I'm going to turn it over to Ian.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you guys know, introduce.
Ian Isaiah McCray, Chloe Specs, Uyaya, Stella Salazar, Hickory Apache tribes from New Dulce, New Mexico. Jerry Ujeri, Chloe and Pocopo. Pesquax, thank you, Num Nums, for having us today. Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, so I guess you're looking at this graph, kind of like Mike mentioned, and what it's showing you, we have three different sensors going on. We have that black line at the bottom. We have our extension inside monitor that we have. And then we're showing also your guys' council area and then also an outside air sensor. So that black line across the bottom is our extension office. And that's showing how when we manage our HVAC systems, manage our filter systems, you can see that we're pretty consistently in that green zone along the bottom of the graph. Whereas that red line and that orange line pretty much emulate each other. So your guys' air in this building pretty much mirrors that outside air. And you can, I highlighted that spike because that spike is literally 9 to 10 days straight where you guys are in the orange or red. And when you think about where that puts you on this air quality index scale, it really is putting us in a very unhealthy situation for our air quality. So that's truly what we just want to do with this project is to strengthen our ability to give tools to our people in our buildings and create these clean air workspaces and these clean air environments for our people. So to do that, to build on what Mike and Virgil have already done with a lot of these sensors, I'm proposing through this EPA readiness grant, it's due in April 15th, proposing to basically do a split. The max you can ask for is 2.5 million, but I decided not to ask for the max. I did just do a 1 million split. And I was hoping with that, both SKC and CSKT could both strengthen all their buildings across the reservation, whether we need to do an assessment on those buildings and see what it might take to do some upgrades, what it might take to equip our buildings with the filters. And so that's basically what this ask is for, is just that blessing on being able to encourage collaboration across the many departments that it would take to really make this happen.
Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, first, I want to thank you guys for staying on top of the issue, caring about it. Second, tracking down the funding opportunity that is available. Third, coming up with the planned approach to deal with this thing. But I just have one question for you. Can any of you think of any reason why we should not move forward with this? Me either. Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Greg to move forward. Oh,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, thanks everybody for bringing in this. We just talked about the workshop Mike had 2 weeks ago. Yeah, fire frequency has gone way up. Our fire seasons is extended with climate change, and we think of being inside as healthy, and it's not at times. So the filter systems, the airbag system, whatever, need to be improved in every home. And even like housing authority, ask them if they do anything in their houses, and they don't do anything. And that's amazing. And we don't have a lot of the things in these kind of buildings. So my question though is, Mike, and you were in charge of the Environmental Protection Division. Where does the Tribal Air Quality Program fit in this? And why aren't they applying for this grant?
I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that. I know that Randy is in the process of retiring. I don't know how much time he spends in the office or not. I know that we had 3 air monitoring sites on the reservation prior to what we've been doing. That was Jetty on top of the Tribal Health Building in Polson, and one in Ronan. So this is really way, beyond that. We want to put sensors all over the reservation, and we want to expand the clean air centers, which we have identified 3 now: Arley Center, Mission, and the college, but we want to expand that to 3 more. So Polson, Elmo, Hot Springs. So we'd have these clean air centers all over. But like Ian said, we want to make sure that all of us are breathing.
Yeah, I understand all that, Mike. I appreciate your coming forward, because I remember back when we first started climate change, and then we did our like our NASA grant for climate change stuff, and the only eligible thing was a college for that one, so we ended up doing that. But the EPA thing can kind of move around, and a lot of entities qualify for that. So I just appreciate you stepping up, and I just wondering if there was any coordination at all, or has it been reviewed by the Natural Resource Department?
We continue to invite them.
Okay.
I'll say that.
I would second the motion.
second by Tom to move forward with doing the EPA opportunity we have here. Any other discussion? All in favor? Got 7-4 and Danielle abstained. So motion carried.
Thank you very much. And happy Easter.
Thank you. We just carry on the conversation for a little bit longer. We do have a draft collaboration agreement. I don't know if we have to go over the whole thing now. The way we've written the grant now is the college would be in the lead, and we would issue a subaward to the tribes. That could be reversed, as Tom stated. These EPA funds are open to anybody, but we started working on it, and that's just how we wrote it. The coordination goes beyond involving the air quality program. It involves your facilities people considerably. because they're in charge of your HVACs and they don't want anybody in their crawl spaces monkeying around with them. One of the biggest issues we found is we had to turn off our outside air intakes to make up air, and all modern buildings have it. We're sucking in outside air, but that has to be manually managed or remotely managed. If would be ideal if you could manage it from a keyboard. Your IT people have to be involved with the purple air because they have to assist in logging those machines on and maintaining them to some degree. We place those in front of somebody in these buildings, but that person has to be well trained in what that sensor really does. And we didn't do a good job of that when we put them out the first time. People didn't know what they were. They didn't remember what they were. The person changed at that desk. So there's a lot of moving parts in this. There really is. Involving the air quality program, certainly something into the future for sustainability. Somebody has to manage this to a large degree. And I'm sure at the college Extension will probably be managing their 20 or 30 sensors they have. But somebody with the tribe here right now, Mike has Kenneth working with him, trying to keep those up and going. They're not foolproof. They do break down. You have to fix them. And there's an IT element there. We're also working really deeply with the schools. Renee Dubé's done a really good job with that. And they're doing a very good job for the most part. They still have their ups and downs and trying to manage their indoor air. But and in the last point, the tribal programs did buy a bunch of HEPA filters that are all now sitting in closets. So that's one of the first things we'd like to do. And those things are maintenance. They're a maintenance issue. So there's a lot of moving parts. We'll all have to try to work together to coordinate that. So right now we're looking at $1 million split, and we found out the tribe has 200 plus buildings. The college we have 65 or approximately that, with counting our student housing. So we're not going to be able to get to them all, but we'll be able to do a lot of assessments. With the college, we're hoping our HVAC person, who's a journeyman HVAC, will agree to be a technical local expert. So if the tribe wants him to come over and assist to look at some of their facilities, their HVACs, and from his perspective, give his independent review of them, I think we can make that possible. Otherwise, you're paying $200 an hour for those guys. HVACs are very, very expensive. So that's all I had to say. I don't want to take up the time to go through the whole agreement, but we'll be looking to get this subaward agreement signed within the next 2 weeks. Todd?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Virgil, thank you for bringing that up because it's a cumulative, it's a collective that needs to deal with this, and it fits our climate change initiative.
Right.
Absolutely. This is really a reaction to mitigate for a longer, warmer climate and fire frequency and outdoor air lack of quality, and then cleaning it up for the inside for refuge. So I look at it as adaptive management, and everybody should be should be stepping up and being part of this. So
Yeah.
we'll have to make sure we push it on our side of it.
Okay, and besides the collaboration letter, we'll leave off a draft policy statement that we're working on for the college. The policy statement is the top paragraph. It's rather short, but then there's also all sorts of these collaboration and cooperations that have to be spelled out through a community smoke preparedness planning process. So that's what we'll do if we get the money.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you guys for what you're doing. Does this include IDC, and then does the college get this, or does the tribe get it?
You'll take IDC out of your share of your subaward, and we'll take our indirect off the first 25,000. So we'll be splitting the IDC. Right? Yeah.
So you're telling me, Virgil, we got a lot of clean air in closets?
Yeah, no, they're not operating. You got a lot of dirty filters in closets, probably.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I did print off some hard copies if you guys would use that. I can leave that in.
You should have told me you already signed this.
Did we vote? We voted. All in favor? Thank you. Morning, Sadie.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Tribal Council. I came today to bring some scientific collection permits that were approved by the Wildlife Committee and the Lands Department by Matea. And so now we're just requesting a final approval from Tribal Council. The first permit that I have for a science collection permit is from Thomas Schultz. He is gonna be mapping the bottom of the lake, and then he'll be providing the data to us afterward. It's a fish angler aid, and it would just be for this year. Um,
Sorry, I'm trying to get there. No.
Did I, on the one, on that?
Maybe two of the same one?
Oh, I accidentally submitted to the same permit on accident. Sorry about that. If you want, I can bring this permit around so you guys can see it. His name is Thomas Schultz, and he's out of, is that Minnesota?
Yep.
Minnesota. The agency that he's working with is gonna be Johnson Outdoors Marine and Electric. They're gonna be working on depths of the lake utilizing a Hummingbird Fish Finder GPS to produce a recreational fishing map of Flathead Lake that could be displayed on Hummingbird Fish Finders with the SD card or mobile app. It's gonna take place March 23rd through May 1st, and it will take only 2 weeks once it starts. It's called bathymetric data. So it will be stored on protected on a local server or on a protected server at the Johnson Outdoor Marine Electrics.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Rich talked to this gentleman for a bit and talked about what he would be producing. It is a commercial project. It is data collection. Excuse me. They will be providing us with some SD cards with that data. If we have the Hummingbird, fish finders. And so it's just a tool for anglers. The bathymetric, sorry, that word's not easy to say. Survey's been done of the lake. This is just an updated one for a fish finder app.
Daniel?
They're gonna make a lot of money off of this data. Those Hummingbird little radars that you use to go find fish in the lake on your boats, those are really expensive, and I don't know that I want more fishers out there on the lake or more boats out on the lake, but I guess that's my reservations on it, is how many more people are gonna be out there, and then they're just making a lot of money off of a resource.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I think there's also a benefit for the fact that we are trying to reduce lake trout on the lake, and promoting that benefit is useful to us as we spend a lot of money as a tribe trying to pull those fish out, and utilizing anglers to do that for us is a benefit both through MAC days and then just regular angling. So we are trying to reduce lake trout. This is a tool that anglers use for that type of work.
Thank you for pointing out the benefits of it.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Tom.
He's doing the entire lake.
I think he's already done the north end. They're just showing the south end because it's on the reservation, and we had the tribal research review board that he had to go through as well as this. And the dates have been adjusted. He's not out there doing surveys yet until we get the permit to them. So they did send us an updated permit, and they might not have just adjusted the dates.
In his bathymetric map that he's creating, is he going to show any other things on the bottom of the lake, like shipwrecks and things like that?
The one that you, no, the one you.
Yeah. I don't know that for sure. He was really focused on the app and being able to show depth for fish finding. But, you know, there is always that concern that it's attracting people to some of those shipwrecks and stuff. We can reconfirm with him if that is something that they're focusing on, but per his application and Rich talking to him, it sounded like it was really just for the Fish Finder app so that they could sell that to anglers.
So
Yeah, we can verify that. I think that's because we already produced a map free that was a depth map for the hot spots for people to fish based on the information we had at the time to increase angler success for the removing lake trout, a non-native invasive species. So I look at it as a good thing, other than I don't want them to be using it for like scuba diving or salvage, that kind of thing. That would be a problem for us eventually.
We could write that as a condition in the permit that this is not allowed to be mapping shipwrecks or other types of other non-natural structures in Flathead Lake for the use of attracting divers.
Or salvage.
Or salvage.
I just want to thank you, Danielle, for bringing up the issue of boats at a time and number of boats. The boats that I'm always worried about are those that are the wakeboard boats, the big sailboats, the boats that really, I'm not that angling boats can't bring in invasive species. They do, or they stock fish we don't want. There is that potential, but they tend to take better care of their boats and not introducing mussels or things like that typically. But really the number of boats at a time we run into the safety issues are the summertime. And it's not the fishermen, it's not the anglers. It's the recreational boaters, the wakeboard boats, the jet skis, and just recreational boating. Typically it's not the anglers that cause a problem. Tend to be more respectful.
given the adjustments to the permit, that we get the permit.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Tom to approve the permit for the lake survey. Second by Greg. All in favor? We're unanimous. Martin out of the room.
Okay, and then the second scientific collection permit that we have is Dr. Bart Granlin. He went through the wildlife and also Matea, sorry, excuse me, for the research board. And for his collection, he's looking at the Mountain Bluebird Trails Society. That's where his program's out of. So they have if you guys ever drive the back roads, you see those little bluebird boxes that are along. And so they're for the bluebirds, and then they go to each one, and then they take starling eggs out of each of those boxes. So he's been operating on this permit or without a permit for the past 15 years. And so now that we've made him aware that he needs to have the scientific collection permit, he's went through all of the steps that we require, and it's been approved by them. And so we just need the final approval for tribal council.
Motion by Carol to approve the permit. Second by Tom. All in favor of Bluebird? We're unanimous with Martin out of the room.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carol.
Just a quick announcement. Healing Court has 3 graduates graduating today. And so if you guys would like to come over for lunch, they're having a free lunch over at the court. So I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
head over. I don't.
Morning, Miranda. You have Missoula schools with you, I see. Welcome, everybody.
So I'm going to quickly come up and just do a brief intro to get them started, then I'll sit back. So this morning, you guys have the Missoula County Public Schools coming in to do a presentation report for you guys of what's going on in their schools in Missoula. So I will hand that off to you guys and you guys can do introductions. Sorry, I like to stand when I talk. Kind of odd sitting
Bill,
down.
can you log in on your laptop as a participant and then you guys can go from there and share? Because we can't open your link.
Is it long? Sorry. Say that I didn't know. It's like,
This meeting is being recorded.
We see it.
Okay, he's good.
Sorry about the technical difficulties here. So good morning. My name is Billy Joe Bullcap Juno, and
I got it.
I am the Director of the Native American Student Services of Missoula County Public Schools. Just a little bit about myself. I actually came from Browning, and I've worked at the district there for a number of years in teaching as a building administrator, district administrator, and so just the plethora of experience in Browning Public Schools. So just being able to be here and take this position was exciting. I actually had left the reservation in terms of thinking that, you see all of these places or these students that are non-native or that are native, that are urban, living in these areas that are experience a lot more academic success than our students are on the reservations. And so I was curious to see what that process was or what they were doing different with our students that we could, that I could take back and bring to the reservation. And so that's how my journey started here in this position. But, just seeing how much need there is in our urban schools, I decided to stick around a little bit longer than I had intended. And so it's been I have a great group that works with me here. And sorry, my slides are not progressing now. Oh, there we go. So just a little bit about Missoula Public Schools. This is our core purpose. We recently moved to a new thing in terms of educating students. So if you kind of look at the little guy with his backpack on, our goal now in terms of moving and shifting education, like the pendulum always swings in education. You look at the stuff that are within the little backpack guy, where balanced character, effective communicator, agile thinker, skilled collaborator. At one point, and most of you look old enough that you remember the soft skills. There was the hard skills, academic skills, the 3 Rs, and then you had soft skills. Well, education is kind of flipping again to where there's so much reliance on technology that a lot of our students don't have those soft skills anymore. They don't know how to talk to people face to face. They really don't know how to work with one another. And so Missoula has kind of picked up on that process of moving back to actually teaching the students how to do that. And I'm sure a lot of schools within your reservation here are probably in that same pendulum swing of moving back towards teaching some of those things that we call soft skills. Sorry. I'm just gonna jump ahead a little bit, I guess, while we're having some technical difficulties. I try not to wing things, but I'm going to be winging it. Just to introduce my crew here. So a few years ago, we decided to move to a different model. And like some of the people have said, we haven't seen Missoula County presenting in a couple of years. And the reason for that being that we actually had switched a model. So this is my in there. So this is my third year in this position. I can. So this is my third year in the position. So we totally revamped the program and moved it to actually having a person who oversees the department and is responsible for implementing Indian Education for All as well as the title grants. And so that was a shift because Missoula primarily just had specialists that went to each of the schools. The specialists were classified employees, and those people would go in, do what they needed to do, but then they were under a program where it was just somebody else's job. And I know that a lot of school districts like to do that. They'll create a position, and then under that position, you have federal grants that that person is in charge of like 5 different programs. I'm sure that happens here in the tribe as well, where you have one position, but they're responsible for so much. And so Indian education really wasn't getting the attention that it needed. And so one of the things that they decided to do was put a certified administrator in that position. And due to my background knowledge of my work in Browning and overseeing different programs, they were like, you're the great person for this job. We're going to give you this program. This program has grown quite a bit because I remember when I first took the position, I was so excited. Having spent 2 years as an AP at Sentinel High School, I realized how important cultural identity was for students to actually have a voice and be seen. Not really so much, just in the curriculum, that was another step up, but just in the building. And so taking this job, I was super excited. But then when I got to see my budget was so small, I was like, ooh. And I've never done fundraising in my life. It was shocking to me to have to fundraise for a program, to keep a program going, because I'm, not that type of person that likes to go out and fundraise. Always had to work for everything. And so that was new to me, not having a budget and then having so many needs that our students, had. And just looking at the expenditures, it was a lot of money to actually, do a lot of the events that we did. And so, just having a small pot of money and then having to fundraise for the rest was very, very challenging my first year. And so I asked, can we change this format? This isn't working. Great, we are getting in the classroom. We have specialists who are meeting with students when they can during lunch groups. But, if we're really going to honor teaching Indian education for all, then we need to help teachers. We need to get in the classroom a lot more. We need to put instructional coaches in. And so we were able to create 2 positions. We have a high school instructional coach and we have an elementary instructional coach that basically work with teachers to help implement Indian education for all. And so we were able to change that a little bit. Unfortunately, that also changed a little bit on our ability to hire a lot more specialists. So the specialists, we had to be a little bit creative in terms of their schedules. And so we were able to actually make it to where each of the schools were getting some of the specialist time throughout the week. So again, our program oversees Indian education for all, but we also oversee like the title programs for all of our Native American students. So we kind of have a dual purpose. And then I told you a little bit about the restructuring. Hila and Charlie. So there's our specialists, and 2 of them weren't able to make it. We have Trina Operson here. Allie North, he's actually in classes today, so couldn't make it. And then Lee Molitor. And those are just some of the buildings that they see. So every week they're at a different building, seeing students. Just our team by the numbers. So we have done 26, or we will do 26 full presentations throughout this year. These are usually large style events, assemblies, different things like that. There are 624 students that identify as American Indian. We hosted 20 evening cultural events for Native American families. We were able to attend 5 conferences, and we offer 54 hours of flexible professional development hours for our teachers and staff. And then we have our 2 coaches who are working at least 20 plus hours a week, minimum with one-on-one with teachers or PLCs. Since we've taken over, since the program's changed, we've tried to increase tribal consultation with CSKT. I just want to note that if you looked at our specialists and myself, most of us are Blackies. And currently we have 75 students who are enrolled members of CSKT tribe within the Missoula County school system. And we have about 250 Black. So most of the Native students that are in Missoula that we serve are primarily Blackies. So just kind of keeping those numbers in mind. But being that this tribe, your reservation is the closest to Missoula County Public Schools, we wanted to try and incorporate a lot more of your history, your culture, and different things into Missoula County Public Schools. And, you know, we've been thankful that we've been able to be included in a few different things. Last year, during April, we did the Bitterroot Dig. We always have attended the tribal PIR since I've taken over. We were able to do the Tribal Language Summit earlier this year. Best practices. We've brought in 3 Chiefs Culture Committee to do some PD. They did the Yaya dolls with us. And we just brought in Trina Fine to do some pouches with us. So we've been trying to incorporate a lot more Salish representatives to teach a lot of that. So trying to keep busy, doing as much as we can to get you know, local tribal culture and history out there. Although I love talking about the Blackfeet, how awesome they are. You know, so trying just to do that a little bit more. And then we have our coaches. This is just some of the stuff that they've been able to set up this past year, and have had our book studies have been great. They've been very successful. We have like 3 book studies a year the last 2 years. And normally we get anywhere from 25 to 40 participate in those book studies. They had an awesome cooking class that they were able to put on. That was probably the most positive feedback that they got with the cooking class. So just doing lots of different professional developments that for our teachers, so that way they feel a little bit more comfortable doing some of the presentations. This is just a lot of the community events that we do. Bingo is always big. I know probably some of you might be not your lives probably are. But we always have normally about 100 people or so that show up for our community bingo night, which is awesome. We started teaming up with the University of Montana when they have their 7 games. Get some families, college visit, but also so this year we 75 people, and we have that we so that has been great. We always do Superman. We work with art. They actually pay to bring him in, but we all get to host with him. Some of our school-wide presentations we've been able to do various topics. We're able to purchase CDs. So I told you when I started that first year, I had a very, very tiny budget. And the next year, through restructuring. So we were able. With that, we actually will. we participate in the guide language program. So that will allow their elementary lunch group. So we do have the special lunch students during lunchtime. They do, I shouldn't say. Allie, she wasn't able to make it here today, but she actually does a lot with that stays on the Sailor seasonal round. She's able to attend the training at best practices with professors, kind of spearheaded that. She's able to take that information. We actually had them tasting dry meat. Keep in mind, these are urban, so they're not, they don't have access to that. I don't think dry meat, but that is good. She just finished up fry bread. She said the book fry bread to students and allowing them to sample her fry bread. And kids are very humbling. Was surprised, which was surprising. Some of the kids were like, I put together. So, pretty humbling experience for her. And, but she just rolled with it, continues to do things. Our other specialists who do a lot of feeding with our kids. The upper grades tend to do a lot more working with students. Their grades up. They have to be checking issues there. One of the things that was shocking was that even though I had left the reservation, just given the status of problems with, one of the houseless now, able to see that firsthand and having to navigate that was a lot for me, just because being back home, somebody didn't have a house there. But being off reservation, some of them don't have that. I have that. But some of the great things we've been able to do, we've changed the format a little bit, was a bison harvest. And that first year I took over, for my third year now, we went to Great Falls. And Great Falls had invited us to participate in a bison harvest. So what Great Falls had done is they had this working relationship with the ranch down by Shodo. And I loaded, got enough money, we're able to take a bus all the way down to Shodo and bring a group of 25 kids and some of the specialists down there to harvest. And they were able to, some of them were able to go out and watch the buffalo bison. Yes, we're on. Here it's bison, it's back home it's buffalo. But we were able to take that information. They were able to see the bison getting shot. They were able to see it getting butchered. They were able to partake in it being skinned. They were, able to see, how it was skinned, how it was cut up. All of that, they were able to participate in it. Some of them were able to take, cut the head off. We had one student who wanted the eyeballs. I don't know for what, but they were given the eyeballs. They were able to drink blood. They were able to eat, fresh heart and fresh kidney right then and there. And the Great Falls staff actually fried up the back strap right there, fresh. Partake in all of that, and it was such an amazing experience for them. And they were all shocked because they wouldn't ever been that. So, you know, the following year, we were like, why can't we recreate that event, but for our students here? Given that, you know, we're not as close to places, so we were able to come up with a bison. We did have people that were willing to donate it, but given the time of year, it just didn't work out for us. And so we were able to purchase one out of Thompson, no, Plains and Camp Thompson Falls. And we, you know, we have the Ag Center right there on campus by Big Sky. And so they do all of the meat processing. So, you know, we come up with a plan and it was like, all right, we can just, you know, bring the bison here. It actually had to be shot off school ground. Then we took it back. We brought in some elders from the Black Reservation to assist with the whole process of it. And we were able to harvest it there. We had people taking home body parts. Some of them were like, you know, I want the tongue. So we had a family taking the tongue. We had family taking tripe. We were also able to allow some of the kids to sample some of the meat there. And then everything was taken care of through our the meat processing plant there, and everything was processed, so we didn't have to pay for a cost for having that bison harvested. And we're, you know, very fortunate that we have that availability and access to those services. From that, we were able to take the meat, and Keela did a wonderful job of actually getting all of the schools connecting with their counseling departments and getting names of students, our native students that might need help through the Christmas or any time of year, and we were able to distribute that meat to a lot of those families. We were also able to get our feeds that we have with our powwow that's coming up on April 25th, if you're available, and just create a bison box from the parts that were left. So a bison box is just basically all of these different parts of a bison that we put together, and we check out to teachers so that they're able to talk about the body parts of a bison to their students. And so we were able to do that for the last year. We have 2 bison boxes now that we're able to help educate and create these lessons around bison. This was Deborah Comes at Night, and this was from last year. And I think if you just read what she wrote there, or she was quoted as saying, it's pretty powerful and kind of puts into, you know, perspective how important learning your culture and your identity is, and being able to provide those experiences for our students is a lot, but it's also very, very rewarding. I had the need for like Deborah, with them today. I love this trip that we do. We've been able to do it for a couple of years, and that's take people to Glacier National Park. This is such a beautiful area, and being from Glacier, I actually live in Fab, Montana, so I'm like right there next to the park. And you know, stuff that I get to experience, the views that I get to experience every day. When I was growing up, a lot of these kids don't get to see that. And for some, I put on there that, you know, some of them had never been camping before. And we're in this, you know, this beautiful area, but some of them had never set up a tent before. They'd never, you know, had the fear of bears in them. They were still trying to snack, and I'm like, there's bears in the area. So they were able to, you know, camp in Glacier. The first year we did this trip, we were able to stop and at the culture centers at both Mission, and we went and visited Vernon Finley too. So we were able to get, you know, storytelling. He did a lot of storytelling, shared a lot about the history and culture, and how you know, the Kootenays' impact on Glacier, how that connection was there. So that was really interesting to hear, because like being Blackfeet, you know, they're just like, this is our land. nobody came here. Yeah, I'm just joking. But you guys look a little serious, all stoic. But I mean, and that's just, was interesting to hear that perspective and hear how their, the things that they did and how there was that connection to Glacier. And like I said, just always it being considered, or most people thinking Blackfeet because they're so close there. This was us on our last trip, and I guess it was a combination of both. But this is our staff there. You can see our little staff, and we are at Sun Point there. If you've ever been to Sun Point, most people take a picture of Wild Goose Island, but if you have a chance, walk out on Sun Point, and you're right there. Beautiful view. We were able to kind of tie into the trip, actually visiting Browning High School for the day, and then Browning Middle School for another part of the day. So we were able to experience those opportunities. And those were really, like, to me, I didn't think they were big things, but it was so amazing to see students that are a small minority from their school go back to a reservation school like Browning High School, where you have 500 plus kids, and be just one of them. They just were like, gosh, we just look the same, everything. How we talk, although they have a little bit more of an accent. This is us. And so they were, pretty excited to be a part of that and to experience that. And we were able to sit in on Kevin Kicking Woman's classes. So he was teaching them a little bit about language, the song, and any of the activities that were going on. So they were able to be part of that school for half a day. So that was just an amazing experience for them. And then one of the things that we've added this year that, with the changes was, I don't know if you've had relatives graduate from any of the schools in the county, but during their graduation ceremonies, they never had an honor song for our students or for any students. It was just quick to the point and then on, but we were actually able, with the new superintendent support, able to add an honor song to our graduation ceremonies to the high schools. So all 4 high schools have an honor song now during their graduation ceremonies. We also just last year were able to add a feather ceremony to during our senior dinner. We have a senior dinner for all Native students who graduate. We invite them all to a location, provide a meal, honor song, give out awards. And this past year, we were able to do a feather ceremony with some of our students. And so that was pretty amazing for them to receive that feather, because like I said, there is a huge disconnect, and some of them would probably never receive that feather. We do try to be respectful and make sure that it's okay that they do receive the feather, because some tribes, women are not allowed to have feathers. And so, trying to ask the family and be mindful of that too. I did want to share that we do have 63 tribes, different tribes within Missoula County Public Schools. So there's not one size fits all. There are 63 different tribes within our school, and trying to find the middle ground for that is challenging at times, but we do tend to just stick to the Indian Ed for all of Montana and teaching a lot more about Montana tribes, but still trying to recognize that there are other tribal nations within our district. Our RISE student group, I'm sure some of your school districts, you might hear of RISE a little bit. I know Arlie has been a huge advocate and participating within the RISE group. But right now, all the high schools, I would say 5, because the 4 regular high schools and the alternative high school, we all have a RISE group going at each of the schools. And right now we have 73 students that are participating in RISE this year, which is a lot. I think when we first started, there was just 1 school and a very minimal participation, but we've been able to up that. RISE has been good. It's not us led. It's actually a state-led organization through OPI, Student Achievement, Michelle Henson. So they bring in all of these different tribal elders from reservations across Montana who present to the student-led, and all of the students on or near reservations are able to participate. And so we were pretty excited for that. And it was really a great opportunity for a lot of our students to do, because this was a time that those that had families on different reservations in Montana were able to see their cousins and staff. And so, you know, there were a few meetings where they'd be messaging their cousins or something saying, I see the way that meeting. And then it was just a time, it's a time for them to socialize. There's no adults. They're, you know, in groups, they're problem solving together, interact with one. That's kind of like the highlight of a lot of these. I know I was not long ago, and people are like, we don't like that your kids only come to you after you know, like, why can't they come from other days? Yeah. So, you know, that's been just phenomenal for our group of students. You can kind of see the picture of the students there. We were able to take about 50 last year supplies, and we were pretty excited for that. Going back to this again, we just talked about the college visit. We have, you know, M7. And one of the things that we kind of add to it a little bit is we kind of have our own. But we host a crosstown game with one of the schools, usually Big Sky, and another school will ask us, hey, you know, so last year we actually, the students that were part of the RISE group at Big Sky wanted their tribal flags gym for everybody to the flags. Halftime of the game, they were actually one of the great things that we did that we had with seeing that graduation. They did just sing that February, and we had one of our students didn't speak Blackfeet, but he wanted to speak Black. And then even with the Big Sky group, I was kind of excited with them. Last year they worked hard, and they all, not all of them are Blackfeet, but they all learned how to introduce themselves in Blackfeet. So they got on the RISE meeting, they could all introduce themselves in Blackfeet to the group. So that was pretty amazing for them to do. So we were super excited about that. I don't know if you guys want to say anything.
Anybody have questions? Oh, boy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for coming in today. And so, and I understand that trying to accommodate all the different tribes are represented in the Missoula school system can be challenging. We have that challenge here on our reservation. I think there's 50s, I don't know, 50 plus some tribes represented in the Ronan School District. My question is, you're located in the heart of our country, heart of our Confederated Salish and Class Bay country. And so are there really a lot of information that's talking about that? Is there a land acknowledgement? Is there all that kind of stuff is happening? Just want to make sure.
Yeah, so we definitely do land acknowledgements at a lot of events that we have done by a non-tribal member. But we, like I said, when I had first taken over the program And, it was, I mean, it was pretty Blackfeet heavy and, you know, it's still kind of Blackfeet heavy. So you tend to teach what you know. And, you know, a lot of times people don't feel comfortable stepping out of their comfort zone. Um, so we've been, since, you know, I've taken over the program, tried, like I said, trying to implement a lot more of, you know, Salish language, Salish history, Salish culture into a lot of the school districts, just because, you know, to me, it's very close, you don't have a lot of great resources. Step out of my comfort. You're further along, I guess, is where probably be seeing a lot more, Salish, information being shared, not primarily just focusing on.
And in terms of IEFA in the elementary, Salish is the first thing that teachers are sharing with their students and their immediate go-to, because we are on the ancestral lands. So if we look at different ways that IEFA is connecting with people across our district in terms of a classroom, if you were to look at that, definitely the Salish is the primary thing, the first thing that teachers are leaning into because of where we're located. So you were right.
Yes, and of the.
Microphone, please.
Sorry about that. As a middle school, high school coach, I normally have a really loud voice, so I'm gonna try to tamp it down since I'm on the microphone here. But I started my career early and I began teaching in the Swan Valley. But then after that, I worked in Arlee for 2 years. And Nancy Terwilliger-Rube was the principal at the time. But I see your last names, and I'm sure that I've taught some of your relatives over the years. And that's where I grew my passion for Indian Education for All, is being a part of and taking kids to river honoring, the activities that happen all throughout the year, and bringing the kids up to Pablo for different things happening. It was the People's Center at the time. So landing into this job has been like a dream for me. However, all of my background and the things that I know mostly are from the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. And definitely the place-based learning is what the teachers are wanting to do. And Keela and I are working with them in the classroom. We have ordered your portfolio book, the portfolio of maps and signs that the Culture Committee puts out, so that every school, and I personally work up at Sealy, so I have the Sealy map of all the place names to go over with those folks. We've ordered one for every one of the high schools and the other schools as well, so that they can look at that and learn some of the names, the traditional names. But generally, yes, that is what most of our teachers are asking for, is stuff from your guys' tribe. And thankfully, we know where to get great resources from you guys and the work that you've done. So it's been great in that aspect.
Also, I have a Hellgate student. She's a junior and she is working on signs for in the buildings, the bathrooms, office, different ones that are in Salish, and they are almost done. She's just putting the clear paint on our coating over them. And so those will be hanging up in Hellgate here soon. And I know Big Sky has Salish with Poc Marshall. So we have, we're getting those up.
It's good to hear. Other questions? Truly appreciate hearing about everything that you are doing. Yeah, we definitely want to see more emphasis on Salish and Alice Bay. Thank you for coming. Morning, Katie.
You guys able to see the screen? My request?
Yep.
Okay. Before I get started with having our friends from Lolo step in, first part of my agenda request is to have a signing of our continuance of our MOU with the Bitterroot National Forest. I've worked with legal. There's no changes as of now to any of the language. It's just a continuance. Previously, the agreement had timed out during December, and so we've taken some time to look at some things and agree that as of right now, CSKT and Bitterroot National Forest are interested in changing words just to make sure that we continue this MOU. So it still does some engagement between CSKT and Bitterroot National Forest, but separate from my position as a coordinator with all the forests. So just to kind of give you a better understanding that even though you'll see Bitterroot National Forest on the agreement that we have with all four of our forests, this is a little bit different. This gives us a different direction to be able to have some coordination and communications with Bitterroot National Forest, as my position is more actually coordinating actions, pre-scoping, all of that stuff. So we're hoping in the near future, as you'll see in the top right corner, this MOU will expire next June of 27. From this time period to that June date, we will be working on some language changes. And so that'll be an opportunity that legal could work with Bitterroot National Forest. We can talk to some of our resource departments and continue some engagement with tribal council to see if there's any directives from any of our tribal council men and women here that might have some interest that we could put in our MOU. Currently, CSKT only has an MOU with Bitterroot National Forest and our friends in Lolo. We are working on getting some separate MOUs with Kootenai National Forest and Flathead. Again, that's separate from the Good Neighbor Agreement for my position, just so we can be a little bit more direct on some of our interests and expectations with communications with the forest. So again, the purpose of this MOU is just to cooperate between the two parties, CSKT and Bitterroot National Forest, mostly focusing on NEPA, and especially now since the NEPA process has changed nationally. I think this is a great example of why we just agreed that we should just go ahead and make it a continuance so that CSKT staff and Forest Service staff from Bitterroot can continue to work out how each agency interprets NEPA. It's a little different, but I think we all still have a good agreement that tribal consultation is and always will be at the forefront of NEPA processing.
Lynn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that, Katie. I think it's just imperative from here on forward in all of our agreements and in fact, for that matter, for our logos that we start including Ponderay on all of these types of agreements in the future.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We'll work on our future agreements to start having the language in that. The Forest Service part of it is, it really goes into talking about what the Forest Service shall do, talks about document review, inviting CSKT to meetings. The coordination and collaboration part of this agreement, I really like because it's open for both the Forest Service and CSKT to co-collaborate if there are any sort of communications to either tribal membership or other stakeholders. If CSKT has an interest to co-host with the Forest Service, this agreement says that CSKT has that opportunity to recommend. Other than that, that's mostly what I wanted to highlight on this agreement. Again, there's no formal word changes on this. It's pretty straightforward. Again, we are focusing on NEPA. So if we can, if my request is if everybody here is in agreement to get a chairman's signature on this, we can officially have this back on the docket with Bitterroot National Forest and many more works to do with our other forests.
Look for a motion to extend the MOU. Motion? With that's a second by Len. All in favor? We're unanimous. Carol out of the room. Oh,
I'd love to have a real binding agreement that would prohibit mining and you know, those kind of things that might be a little bit kind of the catalyst to some of this NEPA review.
I hear you. This agreement definitely puts us in a good position to be able to communicate with Bitterroot. And I think there's some other opportunities with works that are out there currently with the Forest Service that if we continue these agreements and outline CSKT objectives, I think that still puts us in a good position.
I think we're ready for our Lolo friends. Welcome. Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's not a problem. Danielle pointed out very pointedly, we should accept the report from Missoula School. Motion by James to accept the report from Missoula School. Second by Danielle. All in favor? We're unanimous on that. Thank you.
All right, now we have our friends from the Lolo here. Good morning, everyone.
We all, I'm glad to see you.
Well, we're glad to see you too. Maybe we'll just do a quick intro reminder. So Ben Johnson, Forest Supervisor for the Lolo.
Hi, my name is Stacy Allen. I'm the Lolo Planner Vision Team Lead.
Good morning, everyone. Justin Moshel, Heritage Program Manager.
Well, thanks for having us. I was hoping for sun today. I thought spring had sprung, but here we are. So we should take the moisture as a blessing, I suppose. So yeah, we really wanted to come in here today and just give an update on where we are with forest plan revision as we move through that process. And then, you know, judging by some of the news headlines related to land management, I'm guessing there might be some other questions around announcements that happened this week on Forest Service reorganization. I certainly probably have as many, if not more questions than y'all do, but would be happy to entertain or provide sort of an update as I know it. But we'll start with plan revision. So I think the last time I was here was late fall, I believe. And so we kind of gave an update of our general timeline. So, you know, we've been working over the last year with Stacy and her team and Lolo specialists and staff to take that proposed action that went out for notice and comment a little more than a year ago and take those considerations, those comments, as well as the consultation that we did with y'all over that similar time period to start putting together the draft plan and the draft environmental impact statement so that we could release those and start a 90-day public comment period. So separate from consultation, but public comment period. So we've been doing that good work and we are sort of on the precipice of doing that. So we are anticipating the release of those documents this summer. In my head, it's June, and Stacy said it's maybe July. But sometime this summer is our anticipated date. So that's very exciting. It kind of gets us to this next phase of the overall forest planning process. So as part of that, some of the things that we're putting into place are some initial public engagement meetings. So I think it was last Monday, we sent out information around a series of 4 in-person meetings sort of in communities around the Lolo, Thompson Falls, Superior, Missoula, Sealy, and then a virtual meeting. When those meetings will be at the end of April, and really the intent of those meetings, just for kind of awareness, you know, we will not have released the documents at that point. So the information that we share specific to the plan will be pretty high level. But really, we recognize that it's been about 12 to 18 months since we had real solid public engagement. for a variety of reasons. Part of that, you know, some of the changes that have happened in the agency, but also kind of the part of the stage of the planning process that we're in is really sort of like sit in front of a computer and open up a document and start incorporating things. But with that said, the point of these engagements is really to remind people of where we are in the process, give folks an advanced warning that this summer there will be a comment period, explain to them what a draft plan is, explain to them what a draft environmental impact statement is, kind of re-educate folks and re-engage with people about our plan revision process. Because from my point of view, when that comment period does start in June/July, I really want it to be day zero. People are ready to make comments. They don't have to spend 2 or 3 weeks of a 90-day comment period trying to figure out what the process is, how do they engage, things of that nature. So that's one of the big intents of that, of those engagements. And then, of course, as we get to the document release date, and then even afterwards, we'll have additional, more plan-specific public engagements planned out over the summer that get into more topics. And then certainly we'll be coming back to visit with the council on the plan revision where we're at, apart and you know, distinct and separate from that. So that'll be fun to get scheduled this summer, and that's the general plan update. I also know though that we've been doing some good work at the staff to staff level between the Lolo and CSKT, and so I'm going to hand it over to Stacy, I believe, to kind of summarize that.
Great, thank you. And I want to extend big thanks to Katie, because without Katie, we wouldn't have really been able to get the staff to staff meetings in place. And we've had some really great conversations with the CSKT planning team. We kicked off the staff to staff meetings at the end of February. And so we've had a number of working groups. We have these working groups organized around different resource specialties, and the teams have been working in small groups and reviewing the draft plan direction and offering suggestions on how to strengthen that direction and to consider tribal concerns. And so, you know, we're actually, another working group is meeting today. And so we have some ongoing meetings, and we're hoping to wrap up the meetings in April. About middle of the month, we're hoping to have a feedback session and really come together to discuss what we've learned from these working groups, and really what the planning team will be focusing on is how we can make adjustments to the plan direction and really take under consideration everything we've heard from the tribe. So there's a lot more work to be done around this, but I mean, it's been a great start. I think it's been really successful, and I think it's definitely going to strengthen the Lolo's plan. So I really, again, want to thank the tribe for moving forward with these types of discussions. And I'll pass it on to Katie.
Yeah, I would love to add on to this, is that during those staff to staff engagements in those small groups, you know, I was making myself available to be able to sit in each one of those. And I know you guys know that we have such an incredible staff throughout our resource department. So it was really amazing to be able to kind of sit back virtually and listen to folks really engaged based off of their specialties. It was amazing. There was a lot of engagement, a lot of great questions. And I was still highly encouraging the CSKT staff to follow through with that feedback sheet that I felt like could also be a good feedback for myself, or even just general our staff, as here soon, I'm sure we will be working with Bitterroot National Forest for their forest management plan is up for review. And so I think it's just another good opportunity to kind of get used to what this whole thing looks like, feels like, sounds like, and then move forward to our next forest. So this was a great experience for myself, and I'm very thankful that we have these forests that are completely open to new styles of engagement with the tribe. So very, very good strides forward.
I will add, I got the initial summary of, you know, feedback and stuff this morning. One of my favorite things was, it's like, oh, of course, we're all using like similar but different words to describe the same stuff between our two plans. So that's one of the kind of funny things, at least from my point of view.
Question? That's cool. Sounds
Right
like
on.
things are going nicely.
Yeah, I think so.
Timeline.
Yeah, you know, well, we're excited to get to the next phase. It's been a lot of work, especially for Stacy and her team over the last year. So it's fun to hit that or be close to hitting that sort of milestone.
A lot of silence up here. I guess one question I have is how much is the state involved?
They are certainly involved. So I mean, it happens at I think a couple different levels. There's the conversations I need to start having with the state, but I know that we've been working with FWP, and I'm spacing the second agency that we set up. Is it just FWP so far?
Yeah, primarily, we're working with, like the terrestrial wildlife group with WMP and also the aquatics group. So kind of a similar exercise of looking at plan components and ensuring that, we're meeting the mark in the draft plan in terms of providing habitat for species. So I think, yeah, maybe, there's another agency, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, we have our cooperators meetings that Katie comes to and slash intergovernmental working group. So, you know, different relationship than what we have with CSKT, but kind of similar venue of information sharing. And so we have FWP, DNRC comes, then we also have like Missoula County, City Missoula, a handful of other sort of different levels of government entities that come to those. I wouldn't say that across the board, all of those groups have had the same information sharing at the staff to staff level that we've had a little bit with FWP and then with y'all, which is kind of part of the process, right? Different types of relationships. But we definitely are sharing out that information with cooperators.
I guess the question that comes to me and I'm not real familiar with is this new shared stewardship agreement between Forest Service and state of Montana and where that's going to take things.
Yeah, so I can touch on that a little bit. So let's see, let me get my timelines correctly. So we have had a good neighbor authority shared stewardship agreement with state primarily through DNRC. Certainly predates me, I think, for the last 6 or 7 years. And you know, really the intent there is using the good neighbor authority that's existed in different iterations of the Farm Bill to kind of expand the scope of who can help us do forest health treatments on the landscape. And so that's been implemented in this state, and I think 35-ish other states around the country. But so that's been in place. This last December, the chief of the Forest Service and the governor signed a new agreement that expanded it. So one expanded it in scope, but also in time scale. So it's a 20-year agreement. It includes every national forest in the state to really continue that good neighbor authority work. When I think of the shared stewardship agreements, though, at least the way what I think is important, that it's different than forest planning, right? Like forest plan is that strategic plan. The shared stewardship agreement, the GNA authority, it's like a tool for implementation of what's in the plan. So for on the Lolo, for example, we have we have and continue to have a strong program with the Southwest Land Office, DNRC, on GNA implementation. And so there's projects kind of scattered across the landscape. We have the Highway 83 project up in Sealy that was signed last summer, and they've been helping us implement some of those sales over the last year. We also have some projects in development around Sealy called Montour McCabe. There's a couple up near Plains Thompson Falls. And then they're also helping us administer some of our already signed projects. So we have, there's one that's pending up near Plains Thompson Falls called Wilkes Cherry. They will likely help us do some of the timber sales on that. And so really trying to, as we really try and meet the emergent crisis of forest health and treating the forest as best we can, bringing in those state partners helps to expand the workforce. They also have some contracting things that are a little less complicated than a federal timber contract. So for certain types of ways, it can make sales more feasible compared to the requirements that we have. I guess my final thing, because there might be questions, you know, I come from it from I come to this position having worked in sort of recreation side of things, and I view it different but similar to how we've been using cities, counties, states, tribes, even for years and years. That's like how we run the recreation program on a forest. Those groups help us build trails. They help us do the planning for trails. They help us clean toilets. They help, it's that workforce multiplier. So it's kind of similar in that way.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
I do. Anything else? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
That was all you had, Katie? Okay, I got you listed again. Got you and Tony listed. Oh, okay. Well, thank you all. And I got your paper here. Tom?
As long as Tony's here, I wanted to touch base again on the lands financial issue with the push play project in Ronan. I'm trying to find money for that. So my understanding that halt's been ordered because there's no money for the sidewalk to go around the thing. I do know this as far as the push play group, they do have funding probably to pay for that sidewalk. But I didn't know if there was any alternatives that Greg has looked at for you to see if tribal health can contribute something, since it's a physical rehab part of the component of the health clinic in Ronan.
Yeah, definitely. We've been trying to scratch how we can tap into tribal health in order to accomplish part of that planning and inputs or infrastructure being done over there. We haven't found the source yet, but we're looking, and that's definitely an area we're looking for. It's just through tribal health.
Well, I think the source is third-party revenue, but beyond that, the interest that I have is that Mark said he was going to come back here today with the cost estimates for the sidewalk, so that I could relay that to the Push Play Foundation group.
Okay, I didn't know he stated that this morning.
No, he stated that Tuesday.
Okay, I can go check in with him. It's on my list to do. Just head back that way. So.
Well, he was talking about the entire project, but our interest is the interest of Push Play is just to get the playground in. They got the area kind of cleared. They started working on it. I think Scott Johnson or others did.
Yep.
And then they halted because there was no money to. All the rest of it's been paid for. It's just they just got to get a sidewalk into. They put in this rubberized mat when they lay it in there, and then they put the playground equipment. It's already there. They just got to have that. The boundary, I guess, the containment is the sidewalk.
Okay, I'll go speak with him and see where we're at on it.
Okay. I'm not sure.
Danielle?
Tony, just a reminder, I know we didn't set a time frame on it, but we were wanting to look at all the caretaker agreements at some point to make sure we get them, I guess, fair across the board and kind of know where they're sitting and which homes are being cared for and kind of some availability options too.
Yep, and also had a discussion with Jordan on that also this week. So still looking into that of evaluating and getting them all on a spreadsheet. Okay.
We'll recess for lunch.
Eggs back there for you guys.
Got eggs.
There's eggs back there for you guys here, but if you guys need a couple of for your communities, go pull them off the back of the truck. You guys can take them where you need to. I'm dropping off down to the warming center who will take to Anchor Way. I'm dropping them off to NARS, but if you guys need eggs, they already picked up for Bing's event, the Easter egg hunt down there. They've been offered to Jay for his hunt. I haven't heard back from Shannon. Did you hear back from Shannon? Yeah, so just have enough for Shannon down there for the PCA hunt, but whoever comes them up, yeah.
And Two Teeth, can you let Jay know he can pick up his check? Jay Keenan? Yeah, it's ready for him to pick up. And let him know about the eggs.
Yes, ma'am. Push the button. There you go.
Thanks. We need to get back to school, but we were hoping to shake your hand before we leave. Would that be okay?
Can you guys also motion on approving their?
We did.
They did.
Okay, thank you.
We'll come back to order. Good afternoon, Ron. Welcome. Please, yeah, please use the microphone.
Yeah, so,
That's the way Abby keeps notes.
yeah. Oh, say, hey, can I recognize two people here real quick? The hardest working two people in here. Where's Abby at? Oh, she's just, oh, okay. Well, hi, Abby. The two hardest working people in this room all the time are Abby and her. And I just wanted to say that. Before I get started. So I've been communicating with you all a little bit through emails and you know, from the outside looking in, you know, we always think about the tribal council as a unit, as a one thing, you know, but then you get to trying to, you know, get a message across or try to get something done, and you end up working with individuals who, you know, as you know, each individual here brings their own stuff here, and an individual doesn't really have any power. It's the power lies in all of us coming together. So when I left the area, didn't intend on staying away, but things happened. Left the Charcusta News after 15 years of working there, and that's where that's really where I got my that's where working at the Charcusta News, that's where I became a tribal member in my heart. Because I got to meet so many people that I never would have. I went to Polson schools, so you know, and well, so when I left here, I went out to the Seattle area where I'm still at, and I kind of left here homeless and jobless. And so I was looking for something to do, and my sister-in-law had a consulting business, and she hired me to develop a web page and develop some presentation things for her. So I took one of these presentations that I did back 25 years ago. It was intended for the Seattle City Council. The presentation that I put together, but my sister-in-law presented, was to talk to the city council about how representatives interact with their constituents. And so Greg and I were just talking. I'm not here to complain, cause trouble, or anything negative at all. I'm here. I have some things to say. Some of them might seem a little bit critical. But my whole goal is to improve things, and communication is my my deal. So are you all seeing what I'm seeing on the screen? Yeah. So, so, this presentation I put together, we were discussing what elected bodies do and what they're about. And as we discovered that accountability, communications, and transparency were really key things, I realized that that spelled out ACT. And so I came up with this cute little get your act together presentation, not intended to be critical, just kind of a humorous introduction, if you will. So the A in ACT is for accountability. And you all can read what I've written there. And so, you know, the way accountability is enforced is through elections. And one of the things I've been talking to y'all about is, you know, living off the reservation. I lost my connection in a sense because I wasn't able to vote for my representatives any longer. And I've talked to a lot of people for the last 15 or so years. I've talked to a lot of people about this issue, and a lot of people have strong feelings about it. Most of the people I talk to believe that if you move off the reservation, whether it's short term or long term, the only thing that changes is your address. And so some of them feel orphaned, some of them feel slighted or like they no longer matter. And I'd really like to restore the unity that's lost from not being able to vote. But I'd like to maybe talk about that a little more and just finish this presentation, because that's not the main thing here. I'm here to talk about communications. Like I said, but in the acronym that I'm using here, transparency, then, as it relates to an elected body, comes from, you know, meeting minutes, annual reports, district meetings, you know, where the actions that the governing body takes is presented to the people. And so I've talked to you all about executive sessions. During the last tribal council election, this came up quite often about executive sessions. What goes on in executive sessions? Why do you go into executive session all the time? And so Mike and I talked about this. You know, it's important to dispel rumor and for fostering trust, as my thing says here, but also to document action for the historical record, to get what's being discussed by the governing body, you know, on the record. And so what public boards that I've been involved in, school board and a couple other different ones, whenever we were to go into executive session, there was a motion made or a consensus to go into executive session, but a reason was always stated for the, you know, what the purpose of the executive session: to protect someone's privacy, to you know, talk about financial matters that don't need to be out in the public and things like that. So, you know, the tribal council, you know, there's turnover. And so one chairman might have a method of doing this different from another one. And so it changes all the time. So I don't know. it's totally up to you guys. Maybe you'd want to put together a written policy on that sometime or something. I just want to bring that to your attention. This is the one. Communication. This is my mantra, my sacred purpose in life. I was the editor of my high school newspaper as a junior. The first time the Polson High School Salesian newspaper ever allowed a junior to be editor of the paper. And then in my senior year, I was editor again. And as far as I know, I'm the only editor that ever was editor for 2 years. Then I joined the Air Force, and I went in to be a security police officer because I always wanted to be a cop, but the Air Force had its own idea about what I should do, and they looked at my test scores and they said, nah, we want you in communications, so you do what the Air Force tells you to do. And they sent me to school to be a communications specialist. I worked with some highly classified stuff in alternate headquarters NORAD and in Great Falls, Malmstrom Air Force Base, and then I went to Hickam Air Force Base, Hawaii, and worked in the airborne command post and stuff there. And I briefed generals on things that were going on in the communications world. I'd tell you all about it, but it's classified. So I've served on some boards and whatnot, and I always ended up being in the public relations role. And when I came back from the Air Force, I started working at Charcusta Printing, and I ended up being the editor, a job I thoroughly enjoyed for 12 years. And so I'm jumping around here a little bit, but so I'd like to talk about Charcusta News. That's what the agenda item is. I couldn't get here early enough to do a walk-in. I wanted to make sure I was able to present today because I'm just in town for a couple days, and so I got myself on the agenda. I filled out the form and everything, and that's how I got here. Here's the front page of the very first Charcusta that Walter McDonald started writing and published in 1956. And he states in his front page article there on volume 1, number 1, the purpose of the Charcusta is to inform the tribal membership and other interested parties on and off the reservation about the activities of the reservation, and to provide a wider description of the tribal council activities than what were presented in the tribal council minutes. And Walter did that for 5 or 6 years. And it was well received. It was sent out as it is today to any tribal member who wished for it. Actually, I believe initially it was just automatically part of your membership, so to speak. It was just sent out to you. It fell out of circulation for 10 years, probably because Walter moved on to something else and nobody picked it up. But in 1971, Clarence Woodcock picked it up, and he was the editor. I don't remember how long he was editor, and there's been several editors involved with it and several people involved with it ever since then. But, you know, in his little write-up there, it was restated the primary mission of informing about the tribal government was affirmed and broadened to inform the reservation population and other interested parties of the tribe's activities from the tribe's perspective. And that primary mission actually was reaffirmed when I took over the Charcusta News. I was working at the tribal printing plant. We produced the Charcusta News there in a little newsletter booklet format. And the tribes, for some reason, Greg, decided to liquidate the print plant. And I was without a job. Thankfully, the guy they hired to be a non-member, they hired to be the editor, about that same time, they weren't pleased with his performance, so they fired him. And I kind of stepped into the role because I was there taking care of things, printing the paper and whatnot, and I had the experience. So the tribal council, I came and talked to them about what they wanted to do with the newspaper because we didn't have a print shop anymore. And so the tribal council then, you know, those guys, Bearhead, Swaney, who are all these visionaries, these guys that were, you know, this government's still pretty young, but it was really young, you know, back then. And these guys were really visionaries, and they saw this need to not just go out with information to the tribal membership, but to go out to the community, the non-Indian community, you know, that we're all surrounded by, so to speak, that we live amongst. And so we decided to turn the newspaper into a real, the Charcoosta into a real newspaper, and go out there and publish the tribe's perspective about, you know, what was going on, rather than rely on the non-tribal media, which wasn't always friendly or even accurate. And so that was the goal. We wanted to increase the circulation. We bought vending machines. We put the paper out in the stores, and it wasn't just to provide the news. We wanted to engage the community. So we sent out advertising representatives to the local businesses, and, you know, got them involved in the paper and sold advertising to them. And so, you know, it was a much bigger thing than just, you know, a vehicle to send the minutes out with. I felt, I still feel, and I'm quite proud of the fact that the newspaper made a pretty big impact on the whole area, if not larger. Tribal councilmen would come back from Washington, D.C. or other areas, and they'd say, "Hey, saw the Charcoosta News sitting on Senator so-and-so's desk," or, you know, our guys that we had working there for us in D.C., the lobbyists and stuff, you know. So we purposely sent copies of the paper for free to these folks for that purpose, to let them know who we are, what we're doing, and it made a big impact. My letter to the editor there, encouraging people to write letters to the editor, and yeah. Here's a couple pictures of the new format that we developed on newsprint. Interestingly enough, at some point, well before this, the Charcoosta News was printed in newsprint for a couple of years. It was actually an insert to the Daily Interlake for a couple of years. Once every couple of weeks, or I'm not sure what the frequency was, but the Charcoosta News was distributed by the Daily Interlake, along with some other small, like the Big Fork Press, a few other newspapers. So, but you know, look at the headlines. We went after the issues. We talked about what was really going on. You know, our purpose was to get that information out. So this is what brought things to my attention. Please keep your Indian humor at close at hand here. Might be a little critical, but I got to tell this story. What are you going to do? Kick me off the reservation and take away my right to vote? This is the facts as I see them. Charcusta News put out the January 19th edition, I believe, or February 19th edition, I believe. Front page story about the Grizz football coach and his new plans. And on the inside, a big story about the epic Super Bowl win, Super Bowl win by my favorite team, the Seahawks. The same day that paper hit, I'm a geek. I was reading the Federal Register, if you can believe that or not. And you know what was being published in the Federal Register the same day this newspaper came out? You didn't read it in the paper. The Class 3 gaming compact. I feel that should have been on the front page of the Charcusta News. And then about that same time, the election had taken place, and a story came out that basically put forth the platforms that y'all campaigned on the week after the election was held. And so, you know, when you talk about communications, it's not just a little tiny thing, it's a big thing. So the tribal council candidate forums were wonderful. I used to conduct those when I was the editor of Charcusta. I did a TV program at the SKC TV for 3 years, Valley Viewpoint, and we did live interviews with the tribal council candidates before the election. But you got to get it done with enough time for the people to read it, absorb it, make their decisions. So. Here's a recent March 19th letters opinion page. I don't know who Nancy and Nancy are, but they show up on this page all the time. We used to get letters to the editor, and Jennifer Finley introduced this question of the week when she was the editor. And these were local letters, local questions, local topics, local people responding to them. And so I recognize that the print newspaper is kind of a dinosaur these days in most places. I think that the Charcusta News can be an exception to that because I think it has a unique niche, a unique purpose. But aside from that, I recognize that, you know, people don't write letters to the editor anymore. They get on Facebook and they air their dirty laundry and complaints, and we have a discussion, right? So just make note of that, I guess. All right, so this one, let's see. All right, I'll start with the tough one. So one day I was, you know, sitting at home, Charcusta News showed up. I saw this new flag on the front page, and it says, Tribal Council wants to be more inclusive by adding Gillespie. After several months of consideration, Council has settled on a new design. And red flags, if you will, went up in my brain. I go, whoa, what? All right out of the blue, if you will, they've decided to, wait a minute, why? Wait a minute, why did they decide to go blue? I mean, usually I support blue versus red, but I prefer Indian red on my tribal flag. Just my personal preference. Oh, okay. I've got 30 days to make comments. Oh, wow, this came out 2 weeks ago. I'm, get slow delivery of the chartreuse out in Washington. All right, so, well, you all got my letter. And come to find out, this was really kind of a miscommunication. The council hadn't really decided on a new design, as far as I know. I mean, I haven't really seen any follow-up on this, so I'm not exactly sure where this issue is. What came of the comments? I heard that there were a lot of comments made about it. And I think that because there was very little information put out, it raised a lot of things. So better communication would have been dealt with differently. All right, it's humor time. Long time ago, I remember studying about how you could tell which tribe was set up out in the prairie or wherever by the teepee design, how they set up their teepee poles. So I'm trying to figure out this picture on the right. I'm trying to figure out which tribe that is. I'm thinking it's the Lost Wages tribe, but I'm not sure. Guess I got to work on my tribal humor a little bit. Maybe it's my presentation. I drank too much coffee this morning. All right, so here's some information, the nuts and bolts about the Chartreuse news that I gathered. Oops. A $520,000 budget. 75% comes to the general fund and 25% from indirect costs. I assume all you know what all that means. It's currently being distributed to 250 or 2,500 subscribers. 2,284 of them are tribal members who are getting it by free subscription through the mail. There's 175 members by paid mail. I'm pretty certain that number used to be higher. Both of those numbers used to be higher. I know that we printed more than 3,000 copies. I want to say we printed about 3,300 at our peak. It's sold at different stores throughout the reservation, which is great. That's better than what it was when I was there. And then I've got this note down here about, I want to make sure that this is remembered because the Chartreuse News is the vehicle in which legal notices are published, certain official announcements and whatnot. And that's an important purpose for the paper. You'd have to go out to the non-tribal press to get that done without the Chartreuse, and I don't think it would be as effective. So, like I said, I'm not here to complain at all. I'm here to just talk about communication. And so Sam's not here. I don't know who else from the Chartreuse staff might be here. I've talked to Sam, and I've talked to Sam over the years. I worked with Kim Sweeney when she was the editor. I just can't seem to let it go. But I was in recent conversation with Sam. I was kind of my message to him was a little more critical than what I presented to you. Constructive criticism, and come to find out, Sam and I agree on a lot of the things that I had issue with. Not enough local news. about the tribal government. And so we talked about, when I was the editor, I worked directly for Joe Dupuy. I sat in on department head meetings. The running joke all the time was, you know, I'd be in there in the department head meeting and they'd be talking about something. They go, "Now, Ron, we don't want to see this in Charcusta." You know, I mean, things don't, not everything needs to go in the paper. And there's a time and a place for information to be, you know, disseminated. So I don't know what the current setup is. I never really got into that with Sam. I'd like to see the tribal departments, the tribal government work closer with the Charcusta News, and so would Sam. That way, stories can be, you know, story ideas can be developed, and the reporters can go out there and pursue the information. We did, you know, the staff has always been really small, and it's a struggle. You know, to be a reporter, you have to know a lot about a lot of things. You don't get to really specialize in anything. And so that's why I really enjoyed that job. I learned so much about the tribal government, the tribal people, history, culture. I learned so much that wasn't taught in the education system that I grew up in. You know, part of my family, you know, grew up in that time where, you know, it wasn't popular to be Indian. It was maybe even dangerous to identify as Indian. And, you know, we all know those stories and how that's impacted everybody's lives. And so, I lost my train of thought there on that, but here's my suggestions. We need to have more reporters so we can write more stories, provide more information. And so I have this idea. I keep seeing, well, we just lost Liz Dempsey to an information and education position with NRD. And I think there's like 3 of those in the tribal government at least. And you know, the title indicates that some information would come out of that, you know, person's work. But I don't know what that is, but I think that we ought to look at that and see if those positions can't be leveraged to help the newspaper. And maybe even there's the budget to be there. Sam and I talked a lot about that yesterday, and I hope that you know, once I leave and go back to Washington, y'all kind of maybe do some work on that. And then, you know, everything's online today. I read the Charcusta News online. And when it comes in paper version, I go, oh, I've already read this. Oh yeah. You know, and I'm sure everybody does that, but not everybody. And so I think sometimes too much information might be shared in the online, and it doesn't refer back to the print edition where the bigger story could be told. People who go online have an attention span about like that, you know, and people who read newspapers have a longer attention span, I think. As long as the stories are written well, structured, have good information in them, it's there, you can pick it up. Charcusta News is a long way from being a dinosaur. And then, you know, I think the paper ought to look at trying to go out and getting some more advertising from local businesses. there are businesses. Sam told me that, that this is difficult, and it's always been difficult, but there are some businesses out there who would love to show their support to the tribe and love to have their ad in the Charcusta. And like I say, a newspaper's advertising salesman can actually kind of be an ambassador, you know, to the tribes, but going out and talking to these business folks, you know. For a little while there, when I was the editor, I had a salesperson that I noticed that our advertising, I'm not going to mention any names, but our advertising was for all the local bars. So I had to have a little discussion about what our focus was there, where we were going to be selling advertising. But he didn't last long. So, I guess I've been talking for a while, and I would really like to communicate and hear what you all have to say. And
Go ahead, Greg.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Ron, for coming in and sharing your thoughts. It gives me an opportunity to say something that I've been waiting for the right time to say. And that is one of the strongest messages that came to me through the campaign season last year, last fall, was communication, transparency, and accountability, right? And so looking at it from the standpoint of how do we make some headway in those areas, it became very clear to me that the membership was interested in strengthening those things. So I look at communication and the relationship between tribal government and the tribal membership that it serves, not as an us versus them. And I'm hoping that we can move forward with a discussion about how to increase the quality of our communications without developing an us versus them kind of an issue. Because to me, the Charcusta is us. It's each one of us. It is all of us collectively. We all have a responsibility to make it a very solid platform, a good quality platform for communication. I mean, how can a group of people be so quick to post to Facebook and so slow to do anything with the Charcusta? It's never, maybe I'm just getting too old, but it's always been curious to me. My belief is that we have an opportunity here through the Charcusta to come together as a people and take a look at that and say, this is us. This is going to be the showcase. How do we make this something that we actually look forward to seeing, as opposed to flip through in 3 or 4 minutes a week and be done with it, right? So your discussion today, your presentation today, I hope kickstarts a longer discussion for as long as it takes, days, weeks, months to come. But I want to get to that point where the Charcusta becomes a very strong tool for communication, where it becomes something that the tribal membership actively engages with. And it becomes something that really gets a higher level of respect than what I think it currently gets. So thank you for coming in here and doing that and kickstarting that. And I hope that your observations, your ideas are received well, not as a right and wrong, the ultimatum on it, but as one man's opinion, right? And I hope we all can chime in on that and do something with this publication. So thank you for coming in today.
From your lips to the creator's ears, my friend. Thank you.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ron, for coming in. And I want to thank all the folks in the room here that work on journalism. Bernie and Rob, you and whoever else is here that's worked on it. It's really important for me, journalism. And I really was proud of Uncle Walter when he started the paper and right before I was born. And he was a chair and editor and publisher and sales rep and was a one-man band. So it's important that is so important. And the thing about today is that journalism is dying. And it's dying to this quick info and there's no fact checking. And it's just, you get all these, you end up with someone who represents the entire United States that the moment he speaks, you don't know if he's lying or telling the truth. And so it becomes even more critical for us to have the truth be spoken in the best way that we can support it. Because it's always been that way with our tribes and fighting other people in our neighbors or even, other adversaries that are trying to take from us or misrepresent us and to have the truth be spoken. And what better way to do that than through the truth, through our own journalism, through our own fact checking, and it's important. So it's really critical that a couple of things that you also brought up here were this came up with an issue with this a while ago that I brought forward, and how we do that legal notices. And so we have an administrative procedures policy, and it's old. And I kind of called out one of our agencies for not putting anything in our paper. But they were doing their supposed due diligence to let the community know what they were doing through Facebook. And I said, well, where is that stated anywhere that that's our policy? And they're going, well, it seems like that's the proper way to do it. I said, well, not according to the policy I know. So I think that's really critical that we reinvest in that. What is the true way, how we want to reach everybody and do it through. To me, the standard is always newsprint, local, regional newsprint. So that's just so important for me. Then the other thing, when I was a program manager back in the day when at the print shop, and then we went on, did some other things, and I had a goal as an employee of a program to try to produce something for the Chartcoosa to use and to publish through their editing, fine tuning my writing or whatever, but the subject matter could be presented. So when we created I think it must have been the first I&E position in the tribes through the Fish and Wildlife Division. The goal was to do something once a week and provide that to the Chartcoosa News to be additive to the bulk of the publication and used by the newspaper. And we've created more of those I&E positions, whether it's at fire control or tribal health or whomever. And I'd like to see us have a standard that those positions do regularly produce items that can be, subject matter in the Chartcoosa News through the fine tuning of the editor or whatever. Exactly. But I think that's, and we've talked about that one, that we really need, these programs are the expert. They got a lot of stuff. They're the experts, a lot of stuff. And it's just someone help out, because you don't have enough reporters. And, and it's like you said, the topics are so broad and diverse that it's incredible. And it is rewarding to learn and try to edify yourself on all those topics to be able to present them in an article. But it's overwhelming for someone to try to cover everything. And so you really need that help in the various programs within our institutions and in our agencies and our government structure and our corporations. So I think that's one thing we need to step up on and try to do more of. And so we've talked about that. Talked about just each one of those things, but I am here to support journalism. And I want to see journalism die. I don't want to see newspapers die. I mean, every time I see a newspaper go under, there's more of a dictatorship coming our way. You know, because it's really to get the truth out in a publication. And, you know, not always can we put certain things out there. And I think we're trying to do the one thing you brought up with the executive sessions. I think it's reasonable and prudent that you would say why you're going into executive. You don't have to talk about the topic because it's executive session, but at least let people, and we're guilty of that. We don't go through our minutes and correct that. Why did we go into the executive? We should do that. That little bit does reveal what we're doing and sensitivity like a school board would do it or other government agency. So I think we're striving to do that. So that would be something that would be an improvement. But thanks for coming in, Ron.
Thank you.
Carol, go ahead.
I get my news from about 4 sources. One is Morning Joe. I to watch that every morning at 4 a.m. if I can wake up. Second one is Facebook. Third one, let me see, what was the third one? Fourth one is the funeral director. That's where I get my information from usually. And I think there's some things that we do as a council that had never been done before since probably about 4 years ago. We started doing something on a Monday where the executives come in and basically report to the council. And if you miss that day, you miss a lot. And I'm thinking, if I'm missing a lot on a Monday, the people are missing a lot. So I think a lot of that stuff that the executives report to, and I think that's why we get a lot of questions about, you know, the executives that we do have is that, you know, what do they do? Well, they do a lot. It's just that they're reported on Monday and there's a record of it, but not really. I mean, we don't have a record in here of council, but when they have their meeting, they have a record. But I think that's one thing I would like to see. Go back to a Tuesday or have a Monday meeting with minutes. The second thing I see is that when I found out about Sam, I called Rob and I talked to him. And I thought, boy, I didn't know that until Daniel filled me in, Daniel Matt, that yeah, the council authorized him in gone. And of course, I don't think that is very good thing to have happen, to have our editor of the Charcusta gone. I know it's important for him to go to school and stuff, and he's not here, so I probably shouldn't use his name, but I think he needs to be here. And so I'm saddened I missed that. But another place that I get a lot of good information is Rob McDonald and his walk. I think that is probably the newest and best thing. And I think every one of us should, you know, take a walk with Rob and talk about, you know, maybe our, you know, what we're up to, but also everything that he's done so far. I'm just totally amazed. I learned things that I didn't know because, you know, departments evolve all the time and always new things going on. But I tell you, I think we need more of a Rob McDonald walk. It doesn't always have to be Rob either, but I think he does a very nice job. And who he selected to this point has been very good. So, but the Charcusta, I get it. But I do have something coming in the Charcusta on the 11th I'm waiting for, so I'm gonna have to look at it, but I'm sorry, I just don't read it that much, so. And it's not because I don't want to, it's because I get my information from elsewhere. Anyway, I appreciate you coming in and you always have good ideas and always enjoy hearing from you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh,
All afternoon. The interesting thing, Carol has a variety of different information sources, but the important thing is for me is that this print edition goes out to everybody, unless they say they don't want it. And so we know they get the information. Every tribal member gets the information of what we're doing, what's going on. They may not have internet, they may not have email, they may not have this or that. And so, but they may have a mail, address that they can get the newspaper. And so for me, it's the guarantee that I am doing that communication to all of the membership, regardless of where they live. They could be in Australia and they're going to get this paper. And that's important. You know, that is so important because as I think you referenced, everybody has the equal opportunity to get the information to be part of the tribal resources and tribal government. And the only difference might be is that they live off the reservation. But other than that, they should know what's going on. And this is it. But, you know, they may not have a computer or internet or this or that. They may not. I mean, I don't know how many people I know that are in and out of it just having a cell phone. And because they can't afford it. So, but you know, you can get a free newspaper. You know, that's critical for me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gabe?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Ron, for your comments. Excuse me. You know, I really never thought of the newspapers going away. You know, you always got it at home in the Missoulian. And I remember when I was a kid living in Dixon way back, we would get the Spokesman Review, you know, delivered at the Times. But a good friend of mine down in Missoula, he delivered newspaper for the Missoulian. And, you know, they cut that back. They don't deliver the paper anymore, or it's cut down to like 3 days a week. And, you know, I remember, you know, Spokesman Review used to take up like a whole floor of that whole newsroom was just a floor. And now it's just maybe just a few people. And, you know, as you look at the current administration that's in government in the White House, if that person doesn't like the story being told about him the way he wants it told about him, then he cuts them off, or he has his cronies buy out their company, and then, you know, like they're doing with CNN and CBS. So his big money people are buying out the newspapers, the news, and telling them to tell the stories the way they want it told. When I was chairman 20 years ago, we had a staff member come in and said, "We got a tribal member that wants to put a letter in the editor that's negative towards you. What do you think?" I said, "Let me put it in."
That wasn't me, was it?
No. I said, if any tribal member has something to say that may be negative towards me as a councilman or chairman, they have a right to put it in there as long as it's not a personal attack. You know, and I said, let them put it in. There's nothing, you know, I read it. I said, yeah, it's critical, but there's nothing wrong with what he's saying. We shouldn't allow even that question to be considered. So, you know, that person and other people's letters were in the editor that during that time. The other thing that we're coming up against is, like you'd mentioned, is the internet. You know, I don't see my son, I don't see people of his age looking at a newspaper. I don't see them looking at the Charcusta. I don't see any of them reading that. They're all on their phone. That's where they get their news, and Facebook is a hodgepodge of opinions. You know, every one of us in this room can go on Facebook and we can say what we want to say, but that doesn't mean we're right about it. You know, we all have an opinion, and that's basically what that is. But it's not all true and it's not all false. But how do we fact check it is the other one. You know, and the reality is the average age, and I was looking this up on the web here as we're speaking, and you know, some of the research in the nation is the average age of a newspaper reader is 55 years old. You're not seeing the young people in the schools and the colleges, and they're not picking up the newspaper, nor are they reading the news. That I go to BBC, I go to international news, Al Jazeera. I don't read our US news because you can't trust it. The government has censored it so bad that you can't trust what CNN is saying anymore. You know, and MS Carroll mentions one that is a very few that you can trust. But I read international news about what's going on in America. the European Union is standing against us. They're not joining with us in the attack on Iran. Our Canadian allies, my great grandfather was a World War I veteran. Our Canadian allies and our people in Canada that are part of our tribe are looked at as suspect because they grew up in Canada or they live in Canada. Part of our Tunaha bands are in Canada. And so we as a tribe are in a country that says Canada's evil, basically, that the United States president says they're evil. And I think the challenge is figuring out how do we get our young people more attuned to what's going on in the news. And I think everything you've brought up, I don't have any issues with any of the things that you mentioned. I think it's reasonable. We should be doing a better job at communicating what our actions are as a body and the decisions that we're making and why we're making them. You know, that's on us collectively. And but boy, we sure live in a time that I didn't think, you know, you look at a picture of the White House and half of it is destroyed and nobody has an issue with it. We have a president that sends ICE around. I have grandkids with the Spanish last name. You know, if we go on a trip somewhere, is ICE going to deport them to Mexico or someplace? They're born, they're tribal members. They're enrolled here. And we have ICE picking up Native people, threatening to deport them to someplace. But how does that story get out? It gets covered covered up by the main media and we don't hear nothing about it. How do our young people know what that reality is? The president signed an executive order just a couple days ago banning mail-in ballots. So how does that affect our tribal elections? Do we fall under the executive order of the president that we can no longer do mail-in ballots? I mean, there's a very strong attack on democracy in the country as we know it. There's a Supreme Court case right now that's trying to challenge the birthright citizenship of people. And they're mentioning a case that had to do with Indians and their citizenship. We're not hearing anything about that. Our citizenship as Native Americans is in question now. We're not hearing nothing about that. And I appreciate your comments, Ron. I appreciate your concerns, and it looks like, you know, we definitely need to do a better job. So thank you.
Glenn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, and Ron, thank you for taking the time to fly over here, seeing that you flew over here.
Any reason to come home? I'm here.
Just a brief comment on both of the issues that you wanted to discuss with us. And first of all, I owe you an apology. I didn't respond to your inquiries earlier last or late last year, and that's my fault. I own that. It's one of my many faults that I need to work on. So, but I have been putting some thought into those issues. Let me start with the Charcusta News. You know, since being on council, I've realized that many of our programs have flaws that we need to address, and we try to put the best people that show interest in working there. We need to support them. And not being a journalist, I learned from what you explained to us. So now I'll be a little bit more cognizant of some of that stuff that are some of the stuff that comes out on the Charcusa now. And I'm a paper reader. I like reading newspapers still. So every time I see a free newspaper, I'll grab it. But you know, I did have an opportunity to learn a little about journalism from Jennifer when she kind of taught me how to write and how to get a strong message across. So I pay attention to the details of some of the issues that come out in there. So you know, Charcusta, I know they struggle, but it's one of those many issues that we need to work on. So I really appreciate the fact that you have taken the time to come over and share your opinion and ideas on how we can improve that. That means a lot. I think I expect nothing less from the membership to do that, and we don't take it as criticism. We take it as something to learn from. So I just wanted to mention that. In regards to the voting issue, you know, all of our Montana tribes allow their members living off the reservation to vote in their elections. And I understand why our policy didn't allow at the time. And I hope the entire membership understands why we did that why our tribal leaders did that at that particular time. It was to try to protect what little we had. And as we all know, times have changed. Things have changed. We have many of our people living off the reservation. And just because they live off the reservation does not mean they don't belong to us. They're part of us. They're our family. They're our blood. And we need to make those changes to allow them to participate in everything that the tribe has to offer. So, because I know I have a lot of relatives that live off the reservation that ask me that same question every monthly. What are we doing with that? You know, where are we going with that? And it's an issue that we certainly need to address. And we need to start that process. And as we all know, you know, it's going to take a secretarial election to address that. And we just need to do it. We've been working on a straw poll vote to get out to the membership to get that direction from the membership on how we want our if we need to be going that direction or not. So that'll be coming out shortly. We just recently approved the language for that, so you'll be seeing that. But anyway, once again, thank you for taking that long journey over here to be with us today.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Ben.
Anybody on council yet? Donna, come to the microphone, please.
I just wanted to thank you for letting me speak very briefly. My mom was taken in 1944 and sent to a Butte orphanage and was adopted by white people, grew up in Southern California. I was born and raised in San Francisco, and I had no idea whatsoever, nor did my mother really. We all knew we were part Indian. I'm exactly pretty much biracial. Dad's white, mom's native. Growing up, I had really no idea until I was a lot older and I came here for the first time. What I want to say is, as a tribal member, growing up in a big city, not knowing anything, in support of the Charcusta, when it finally started coming to our address, finally we kind of understood a little bit about who we were, that part of us, that half of us. The second thing I want to say is that as I grew into a woman and I stayed here for a couple of years and then I went back to California for a very long time. My career, the bulk of my career was there. It felt really, really isolating to have been included here as a member and then to sort of lose that connection just because of my geographics. I think that that is a sad part of not living on the reservation. The Charcusta helps, certainly it does. But what I wanted to say is I never ever understood why on earth the fact that I lived in San Francisco, California, prevented me from accessing anything that could have helped me as a student, as a young mother, and that we just were isolated. So we're part of a tribe, but we're not. And so that was the comments I had in support of what Ron said about voting, because everyone knows my sister Angel. She lives in San Francisco again. My eldest daughter, Adrian, lives in San Francisco. My nieces and nephews live in San Francisco. And they just have no say and no lifeline of support either. I don't think it should be that way. We are all tribal members. If it wasn't for every last one of us, we would not be a tribe. Think about that. We would not be federally recognized. We would not have this beautiful reservation. We would have nothing. So I do believe that the people matter, all of us, no matter where we are in this world. We should have that inclusion in our tribes. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you in person, Mr. Bick. I know we've talked a couple times and I appreciate the comments on the Charcusta. We can't fix it if we don't know what's wrong, and we're not all editors or journalists up here, so really helps give us a sense of direction and a starting point. So thank you for bringing that issue up. Responsiveness, it's been interesting here on some of the things that we can put out there and some of the things we can't. And I'm just starting into my third year. It's been a learning curve the last couple of years. The last election, first time with the election committee and understanding how that process worked. I was happy to know it felt like it was a very secure way of doing things, felt really comfortable with accounts. And but off reservation voting is something we've discussed up here, gosh, I think since I got on, and I think we're finally making headway. We've got a group of people that are ready to perpetuate this forward. I think it's not just going to be a discussion anymore. We're going to move forward. The pushback we get is sometimes with some of our elders because of that termination era. They're still a little nervous. They're nervous for us to move forward with it. But then we had, one of our departments in here, and they had some staff that was training, and they're looking at jobs for these people that, are getting training, and some of those options were going to be off the reservation for them. And so as soon as they leave to take a job, because we don't have a job for them here at home, they lose that right to vote. Housing, we don't have enough houses for all of our people. We don't have enough jobs or enough homes. And if we had that, I can understand us limiting that, because then it's a choice to leave. But right now we leave our people with no option but to seek, work and housing elsewhere at times. So I'll be interested to see how this straw poll comes back. I mean, I'm going to say, anyways, maybe we know, but I didn't have a clear understanding of it on whether with that secretarial election, the BIA is going to pay for that or if the tribe's going to pay for that. And if the tribe's going to pay for that, I want to know that we've got the support before we go through that big process. So we're going to put a poll out to the membership. Like Len had said, we approved that language just Tuesday, I think it was. when we approve the language. So we're here to represent the people, and we need to know how they feel on that. We hear your opinion definitely, and I've heard the opinion of several others on how they feel about off reservation voting, but we want to hear from all of our membership as we go into that. So just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on where we are and what direction we're headed.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for calling me back. Good discussion.
Well, we've interacted time and again over the years here and there, and I just wanted to say one thing with respect to the transparency talk about. One thing I do when I go to my district meetings is I take along the agenda requests that we've had, because the agenda requests actually contain that little blip of information about the issues. And so I provide that, and I would recommend that the Charcusta look at those requests to see that little blip and whether it should escalate into an article. And but I provide all of those at district meetings to the folks that'll come. And district meetings, I don't know how often they happen on the rest of the res, and I don't get a lot of folks coming, but it's there.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate you coming in today and
Thanks. I know we've run over time, but can I respond to this latest discussion? Because for 15, 20 years, since I moved off the reservation, discovered I no longer was able to vote after actually initiating and organizing and leading tribal council candidate forums and being so involved. And then all of a sudden, I went to Washington State, and that wasn't my intent to stay there, but anyway, I wasn't able to vote any longer. Mickey Pablo one time told me, if you move off the reservation, make sure you keep a post office box. You've all heard that story, I'm sure. But that's it's not legal, doesn't work anyway. But okay, so transparency real quick. You guys tell me that you've been discussing this and that you're actually moving forward on this issue. And I read the minutes basically pretty much as soon as they come out. I own my own business. I'm pretty free to do whatever I want to all day long. And for some reason, I choose to read the tribal council minutes quite frequently. And I have not seen any discussion about this issue in the minutes. So I went, all right, okay. So the other thing I've discovered here recently is I was told that that y'all are working on this issue, and that you've had the legal department review, all the legalities of this issue, and that they are advising you that a secretarial election referendum vote needs to occur. And I'd like to pose a different thought. I'd like to go back to our Constitution. And in the Bill of Rights section, where it says two things that pertain to this, one is that all tribal members are afforded equal opportunity to participate in the tribal activities and resources. Okay. The other thing it states is that in order to be eligible to vote, you have to be 18 and meet the eligibility requirements of, see if I can get this right, I believe it's Section 4, Article 7 of the Constitution. So you go up to that, and that's really the section about tribal council. But in there it states every tribal member, age of 18, who has lived on the reservation for at least 1 year is eligible to vote. But the election rules say something a little bit different. The election rules state every tribal member who is over the age of 18, who has lived on the reservation for at least 1 year prior to the primary election is eligible to vote. And that's where those of us who live off the reservation are being excluded from the opportunity to vote, if I'm reading this correctly. And so it doesn't take a secretarial election or a referendum to change the election rules. And I brought this up years ago to a different tribal council, and probably the same attorneys in the legal department reviewed, and they said, nah, that's not how we interpret it. But I don't, because it hasn't been in the minutes, I don't know what the discussion has been. So I'm proposing that it's easier than we think it is to fix this. I recognize, my mom told me, oh no, the people that live off the reservation shouldn't vote. That's dangerous. You told me, Mr. Chairman, that you had reservations about that, losing that local control, you know. I get that, but you know, all the only voting that happens, this is a parliamentarian type of government here. We don't vote, the tribal membership doesn't vote on the things that you all decide every day that you're in here. We get to vote on who is making those decisions. That's all. We don't get to say, we're gonna sell all the tribal resources and split the money up. We don't get to, we don't, you know, you're not gonna get 30% of the eligible voters, even if we included all the age eligible voters. You're not gonna get enough people to bring forth a referendum to terminate the reservation. I don't see that happening. I don't think it's a concern. I know it used to be. I know, you know, that there was an actual attempt. At least one, you know, in our government's history. And so I think it's easier than what we've been looking at. And, you know, back to, you know, so I've been trying to, you know, bring this issue to the forefront. And I appreciate everybody who sends me a reply and says, yeah, I agree with you. I support you. I can, if I had collected them, I'd have a couple handfuls of those types of messages. But Greg campaigned. He says you can't rely on a politician to fix your problems for you or get things done for you. So that's why I'm here, is to try to get that done myself. So. So I guess the thing went out on Facebook today, kind of ironically now, I guess, that I was here to discuss this issue. I actually was considering bringing it up on in the quarterly tomorrow, but well, now that we're here, that's what I have to say about that issue. I know we're really long here. I apologize for that. Although I'm actually kind of happy that we're having so much discussion about these things that are so important to me. But I'd like to say one more thing. Rob, I enjoy, you know, information, Charcusta News, especially Charcusta News print edition, is not the only way to get information out. I mean, there's lots of different ways, and Facebook is, you know, one of the top ones. But I really enjoy Rob's walks with the CSKT, but I want to wrap this up with a little bit, kind of a humorous thing that I was looking for an opportunity to say. Walks with CSKT. I know I used an acronym to bring up my presentation today, but I hate acronyms. I went in the Air Force and like, holy cow, talk about acronym city. everything is CINCP, we all grew up with, IHS, BIA, all these terms, But when we talk about ourselves, about us as a people, about the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, we shouldn't we shouldn't lower ourselves to a four-letter acronym, CSKT. And because it doesn't represent who we are, we're not. So my response is OMG. We've reduced ourselves to a four-letter acronym. WTF. I'll quit talking again.
Thank you, Ron. Junior? No, you got to do it for the record.
Good afternoon. I like what it's back when we have the Kootenai Culture Committee meetings. Some of you come to the meetings and they give you time to bring whatever up, talk about whatever. And like Leonard, he's on the schedule, but we get about a 5-minute rundown on the tribal complex here, the council, what's taking place here. We get about a 5-minute rundown. Transparency, communication is not there. We have department heads that come in, they give us a pretty good rundown on what they're doing. But there are many topics, issues that are here that we want to hear about at our culture committee meetings. And we don't, because you guys are not there. We don't know what you're talking about here. We can't be at the culture committee meetings because we don't know. That straw vote that she brought up, we don't know about it. I just want to bring that up. There's no communication. And there's a lot of us out there. A lot of us are in the same situation here. No communication. Mike's never been in Elmo. Tom, we want you guys there. It's here. It's taking place. I want to know why you guys are in Helena. I want to know. See. That's what I want. And I know there's more of us. James, he's never been to Elmo. But he sends me. The Chad Custer, I used to love that paper. I don't even read it anymore. I'll take the minutes and run through it. What can I do at the Kootenai Culture Committee meeting this month? So I'll run through the minutes to find something to bring up because I don't know. Because I'm not hearing it from you. I believe long shot here, but I think every district should have a complex, a tribal complex in every district. You all say how important you are. Come to us. Come to our district. Have a meeting with us. I want to know. My children want to know. We're not getting that. We're not seeing it. You know, and I care about you all. I know you all. I care about you guys. I care about your work. Because it's for us. You're working for us. But it's no good with it. That's all I wanted to say, and I really hope you think about it. Come to our meetings. You know, I want to let all this go if every time you have a meeting, you can come on Facebook or whatever and watch it and listen to it. Live. I love that. When you guys were doing that, why did you quit? Why did you quit doing that? That was big for me. There's people that can't make it out of their house that got to watch you guys. So really, reconsider that about putting this on that screen again. Because a lot of people like that, and you took it from them. The Charcusa again, I don't even use that paper up anymore. You know? And you guys you have say. Every department, every entity on this resolution, you guys have say. Not exactly how to run it, but hey, I'm hearing this and this and this. Can you look at it? Can you fix it? Can you adjust it? I don't hear none of that. You know? We work for you guys. We put you guys in here. And I know you guys are doing great. You guys are doing what you said you were going to do. But you can go past that and really start giving us our concerns, listening to our concerns, including us. Because we're not included. We are not included. By voice, we are, but not in person. We don't get to see or hear what's going on here. On our reservation, we don't. We're all in a cloud. You can hardly see through that cloud. And I'm not trying to be rude looking up here. I'm speaking the truth from my heart. That's what I'd like to see. Oh yes, Tajas.
You said Greg and Charmel would be back this afternoon. Are
We have Jordan next.
You want Jordan next?
Oh, I think, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to respond to Junior. Junior, when I first got on council, I made all the elders meetings either by Zoom or the council put me on the technical management team for the Columbia River. And for about 8 months out of the year, they meet every Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning until we get done. So I took my direction from council to do that on part of the tribes. So that prevented me from attending the elders meetings, both elders meetings. I've now successfully got someone to be an alternate. And so hopefully I don't have to do that. I'll track and see how he does. But that's the main reason why you haven't seen me participate. I got in, I think last month, I got in a little bit of it, zoomed in and got a little bit of the meeting, but that was it. Just wanted you to know that. Okay.
Len?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Junior, I don't disagree with you. You're absolutely right. And as I mentioned to you and the elders on many occasions, that's one of my many flaws that I need to work on. You know, one of the reasons why I asked Vernon to put me on the agenda was do a question and answer kind of thing. Cause I know you guys had a lot of questions. We have a lot of information here that we go through. And it's just one of those things that I would rather try to address what each individual elder has over there, what their concern was, what their question was, if they or whatever they needed me to look into. So I just wanted to mention that, and I need to get better at that. Okay. So, and you know, I remember years ago, I think I was maybe on my first or second term. Wilbur used to come in every Tuesdays and Thursdays and sit right there at that corner and question our decisions. And he was there all the time. And if he had any qualms with us, he let us know. And I always try to encourage all of our members. If you're in Pablo on Tuesday or Thursday, come in, grab some coffee, and sit there. You have every right to come in and question us. Question us without condition. Because, you know, as I've always mentioned before, we work for you guys. We work for you guys. So if there's something that's going on within our government that you don't understand or you don't agree, you have every right just to come up and say, hey, what's that all about? And how does it affect me? How does it benefit us? So anyway, that's all I had to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Carol?
Yeah, I think we should televise them. I think all council meetings, I don't have no problem with that. You know, sometimes you get caught on the mic but if you're saying something you shouldn't be saying, you probably shouldn't be saying it anyway. Secondly, you know, I like going up to the elders meeting. The only thing I don't like about it is sometimes I feel like I'm attacked. And I can't describe to you guys everything everybody says up here because we have just a big wide variety of difference of opinion, of ideas, of thoughts. And if I could express all of them, I would. But we disagree. We agree to disagree. But sometimes I feel like I'm not welcome there just by the way some people talk. And and maybe it's just me. I don't know. But I know others have said the same thing. And so I don't know. Maybe we just need to be careful of our approach. I'm not innocent in the whole thing either. I can come off a little snotty sometimes, not intended, but sometimes it just happens. Anyway, I try to make it. I really enjoy the information. It's always very informative, but I think we could do better. And I also think we could televise. I think if that's going to clear it up, let's do it. I don't even know why we stopped. Why did we stop? I mean, I know another thing is that there seems to be a lot more executive sessions. And a lot of it's personnel issues, but some of it's uncalled for, I think. I don't think everything needs to be executive. So I don't know. That's my thought, Mr. Chair.
Jordan? Good afternoon. Sounds like it's executive. Go out of regular. That's our agenda. Great.
For tomorrow, I know it's a quarterly meeting and we're not totally in control of what happens there, but I just wanted to let the council know if you haven't seen it already, that services for Denise Viant are at 2 o'clock